Today is a special day for really a number of reasons. Here in America, it is the Tuesday directly following Memorial Day. So for my fellow Americans, a late happy Memorial Day. And that means you get to enjoy all the leftover burgers and dogs and sausages from yesterday, so go do that. It is the end of May, so it's the end of what should essentially feel like spring, and now we should start getting into summer. But also, 3 years ago today, I graduated high school. Holy shit, I'm old. But also on that same note, 3 years ago, I got my hands on this, the iPad Air 3rd generation. And this was an important iPad for me because for 4-5 years at that point, I've been rocking an iPad Air 2 and it was getting a little long in the tooth. So I figured today we're gonna do another long-term review, the iPad Air 3rd gen, and see if you should buy one in 2022. So to start off with, let's talk design. This is in what is essentially the same body as the 10.5-inch iPad Pro from 2017, just without the top speaker holes and the flash, and I'm not sure if the 10.5-inch had a camera bump. I know the 9.7 did, but no camera bump on this one, if that was a thing. But other than that, it's identical. You got your smart connector, first gen smart connector on the side, power button on the top. Still got a headphone jack if you're into that. Dual speakers on the bottom. Again, there's none on the top. Got your lightning port. And then on the right side, you got volume up and down. Now, it does still look like an iPad from 2019 or a certain $330 iPad from 2021. Apple, please do something about that. With some particularly large bezels on the top and bottom. But that's because we have the good old home button. Got Touch ID Gen 2, so super quick, super snappy, and you got a nice little FaceTime camera up there. I believe it's 8 megapixels. Now again, back to the screen itself. It is 10.5 inches corner to corner. It is not ProMotion like the iPad Pro, but it does support True Tone. So it will shift the white balance to be a little warmer, a little cooler, depending on your surroundings, to make it a little easier on the eyes. And I guess another thing we should touch on the display, because it is part of the display technology, Apple Pencil support. First iPad Air to actually support the Apple Pencil, and the only iPad Air to support the first gen Apple Pencil. So we got some nice little scrolling action. You can do some doodling if you want. I'm not an artist, so I don't. It looks very visually similar to the iPad Air 2 that preceded it, and by extension, the iPad Air first gen. So this was definitely a nice, needed refresh to Apple's mid-range of iPads, because they didn't have one at the time. Remember, they had the iPad Mini 4, 6th gen iPad, and then you had the two flavors of iPad Pro, 11 and 12.9 inch. So you really had nothing mid-range. I mean, I guess the iPad Mini was priced mid-range, but like didn't really feel like it was mid-range. So this kind of brought back Apple's middle step in the iPad lineup. It originally cost $500. Mine did not. Mine cost graduating. That was the stipulation on this. I was not a motivated child in school. Motivation was, here, we're gonna hold this $650 iPad over your head. Just make sure you get out of high school with a diploma, please, thanks. And it worked, barely, but it worked. But now, it's not $500. Hell, now you can't even buy it from Apple, because the iPad Air 4 and 5 have subsequently come out. So if you want one of these, you're gonna have to go to eBay and maybe, sometimes, I think I've seen one like semi-recently on Apple's refurb page, but like they're not frequent on there. You definitely do have to go secondhand to purchase one of these. I've seen them for pretty cheap, like $180 I think is the cheapest I've seen one that actually works, but I usually see them like $250, $260 pretty frequently. Now the internals is where this was a massive leap over the previous iPad Air. The iPad Air 2 had an A8X. It was a tri-core CPU, and it was paired with, I want to say 3 gigs of RAM, maybe 2. Actually, I can just check right now. 2 gigs of RAM. 2 gigs of RAM and an A8X. This one has 3 gigs of RAM and an A12 Bionic chip, so the same chip that you would find in the iPhone XS, XS Max, XR that came out like 6 months prior to this. Pretty top of the line specs. You know, it brought more cores, more efficiency. It adopted the big little architecture that they introduced in the A10. So you had efficiency and performance cores. So this thing was a massive, massive leap up from the iPad Air 2. And I would know because I've used both of them. And used both of them actively at the same time. It was a welcome breath of fresh air. And your storage options with this are about as limited as they are today with the iPad Air. It was 64 and 256, same as the iPad Air 4 and iPad Air 5. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess. But using this thing then and even now is comfortable. It's enjoyable. There's no lag. You know, it doesn't drag its feet. It's not slow. It doesn't feel old. Handles games fine, watching YouTube, browsing the internet, whatever you typically want to do on an iPad. Handles it like a champ. It is a comfortable iPad to use. I've been exclusively using this iPad for like a week and a half now, just kind of refresh myself and prepare for this video. Now it does look its age. It does kind of look old, you know, big old bezels and this thing down here, the home button, but it doesn't feel old. That's what counts, is it doesn't feel old. But should you get one? Should you buy one in 2022? Yeah, I don't see why not. Looks old, but it doesn't feel it. It doesn't feel its age, and I anticipate that to continue for the next couple years. I really don't think that you could go wrong with purchasing one of these. You know, you want an iPad, you want the new features, but you don't really want to spend $600,000-$700,000 on an iPad. This is recent enough to get you pretty much all the new features that the iPad Pros and the new iPad Airs have and not feel left out. You get all the fancy, flashy bells and whistles. So yes, I do think that if you're just looking for an iPad to use, read, watch YouTube, whatever, this is definitely a good place to stop in and look. If you can get one in 256, probably go for that. It's an iPad. You're gonna use it for more media-centric things than your phone, and 64 gigs definitely fills up fast. But yeah, good iPad, good value, good experience, good recommendation from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you feel it deserves a like or maybe even a subscription to the channel, I'd appreciate that very much. Let me know what iPad you're currently using or what iPad you want to start using in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video.